Welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophia, piloting to the universe of Chinese. Let's continue unpacking ocean/industrial age concepts that first translated by Japanese scholars who were the first group of people from East Asia that embraced Western culture. And so they did some translation that it's almost like a conversation almost between two cultures because translation is not that easy at first to understand and then find kind of similar qualities from your own language, your own culture, and map it onto that. It's not like 100% or one-on-one. It's definitely not that simple. There are some transformation and also um, added the understanding. So it's almost like, okay, war, art of war by Sun Tzu, Sun Tzu Bing Fa. Okay, so talking about um, how to understand the operations of war, right? The major elements. If I read the Chinese, the ancient classical Chinese version, it will be very difficult for me. But I read the translation in English. Oh, things are a lot easier to understand because translation is first that translator understand fully and then use the language, the target language to make sense to the audience. So in a sense, Japanese scholars put in their understanding of what Gui Fan is about. So Gui Fan, I translate as a standard. So putting this exactly the same mode houses to illustrate what standard or up to standard is about. Because first we have to have some sort of mode or gauge, and then everything is made into that. So almost a perfect illustration of what industrialization is about. Um, is about, okay, everybody heard about Six Sigma, right? Six Sigma was used to be a popular, I guess, industrialization age of controlling of variety or the deviation. So can narrow the deviation to make everything like the tolerance get narrow and narrower, meaning everything comes out as a standard. Everything is standardized. That's the way to be more efficient. So this original concept from the West, when the Japanese try to make sense of it, they you pick these two characters. Gui means gauge, and specifically, actually, this is I should have checked. Compass. Okay, the thing that you use to draw a perfect circle, and we can extend that is a into kind of a gauge because you kind of set radius and then you fixed the center point, and for sure you're going to guarantee to have a perfect circle. And we can use that motion almost like a gauge by setting this parameter of the radius, right? And then you pin down the circle, the center point. If you have a coordinate system, you know where the location is, right? And just by these two parameters, you're going to set exactly how that circle will turn out. There's no guesswork. Everything is controlled. It's under the gauge. So gauge, in a sense, almost like parameter setting. How Chinese then made up this gauge concept. You can see simplified traditional looks a little bit different, except that the traditional fully spell out what this is about. It's human C. Okay, the bottom is human. It's a okay, you can almost hear is a hip or butt, the curvature on your back. And then here is the front. So it's a profile view, left facing profile view of human figure. And then we have an eyeball on top of that. A few episodes ago, we talked about yawning. We have the air, like a hushing out from the top of human. But here we kind of zoom in on the only body part on humans that detect vision, like by visual cues to sense the world, right? So human see. I often like to distinguish human see and see because by the eyeball itself, it's see. But human see, why Chinese actually attach a human body onto the eyeball? What's so special about human see? Because human see is not your objective see. It's you as the human cultivated or brought up by a certain culture, a certain framework, or a certain language. And then you have a particular way of picking up visual signals from your environment and see things in a certain light or way or angle. So it's human see almost a way to acknowledge it's a biased see. It's not a God angle that you see everything from a far bigger scope, but it's very narrow and biased see. It's very contextualized see. It's not an objective see. It's almost like a subjective see. Okay, human see. Plus the left side is a full grown man. Okay, how Chinese express grown man? It's the hairpin. Okay, believe it or not, ancient Chinese man, grown man, I forgot what's the age. I mean, in contemporary culture, it's 18-year-old, and then you're supposed to be like a grown man, right? All of a sudden, the number jump to one, and then you jump to 18, and you all of a sudden become a man. Okay. Anyway, it's a human way to quantify what a grown man is. Ancient times probably is younger, as 15 or 13, something like that. That you're supposed to be fully responsible for your own behavior. And an external telling sign of that is you're going to put up your hair like a man bun, like you make a bundle and then you pin it with a something look like a chopstick, okay? And then the hair pin up like that. And that kind of hairstyle basically is a man bun, is a signature to say you're a grown man. You cannot allow to have your hair down anymore. Okay, so this grown man, almost like meeting the standard, at least the age standard, that's the minimum requirement. And then the human see is acknowledging this biased viewpoint. And when we have these two together, somehow, okay, there is a logic jump there. Why it become a compass? Why this thing? Yeah, it's hard to explain. My brain can come up with some theories, but it's hard to explain. But I would say grown man, it's almost like putting a man into an expectation, social expectation of what grown man should look and behave. So there is this gauging on humans. And an eyeball human see is also, I guess, a human assessment process of estimate if this is a grown man. And therefore, the whole thing is about to gauge, to almost like a calibrate. You human see, check if this is a grown man. Okay, here's my best shot. Fine, we have bamboo, grass symbol or plant symbol, which is upward pointing, and it's a cluster of them. So we just use two, mean multitudes of those grass. So sun facing upward, go growing thing, grass. Below it is water symbol on the left side, which is the middle stream, continuous, and on the side is broken. So there are some teddy, like reverse flowing. So the current motion is a lot more complicated by the near the bank than the middle of the stream. So that's how Chinese capture water in nature. And then the right side is kind of a flow of the way water flow in the sense, and the whole thing is a location near Shandong province, which you can imagine as not far from Beijing, but east to Beijing, but it's like a coastal province over there. Because ancient Chinese, classical China eras, major thought leaders came from that region. So they use their region as a gauge for many things, and other regions start to adopt their concepts. So Fan used to be this particular river flowing in that region. And we can almost imagine that's a kind of a segment of the Yellow River, which is the biggest river in the shape of like this. Big letter N with an elongated side. That toward before the Yellow River flowing into the ocean, that they are passing by Shandong province. And we can imagine that that water could flood over the history of China many, many times. And therefore, this particular segment of Yellow River, I mean, I haven't checked if exactly it's a Yellow River, but I know the Shandong, so most likely it's Yellow River. And that signifies overflowing or flooding of river. And paired with grass somehow means mode. Again, there is a logic jump there. And I would imagine for anti-flood motion that we're going to have bags of kind of I guess grass made in there because that's easily accessible to try to block or at least try to direct where the overflowing water is going to go. And that creates a sort of like a boundary for the water to flow in a certain direction. And that eventually become mode. This is the boundary making thing. Another theory is it could be the mode in ancient times that's made of, well, that's a different character. Okay, so gauge and the mode were Japanese scholars' choices to map onto this standard. And here's the thing. Gauge, almost like a measurement, measuring the deviation, right? To see if it meets the standard. And the fun itself is the standard of drawing everything of a boundary. It's almost like a set the tolerance, the width of the tolerance. And the gui is measuring, and the fun is setting the tolerance. So together they set the standard. But thank you for your time. See you another day.